Do you have any questions?
I'd like to hear everything you have to say.
Okay. Well, one thing I would share.
Hang on a second. There is no, this is not a public hearing. So the questions in this meeting are confined to council, committee, council members, and the mayor. At further meetings that will be held January, February, both of those meetings will include public participation. And we're glad you're here, and it is an interesting educational process. And we will be hearing from lots of folks and sorting out lots of information. But we have to keep it in the framework that we set up for tonight. You will all be welcome to come back, and you'll get plenty of notice for the next meeting, and I'm sure it will be as interesting as this one is. So thank you. Now, Mayor, do you have anything you wanted to? No, thank you.
I would share two short things, very short
Just a
things.
second. Brian?
No, no.
Paul?
Not right now.
Okay.
For a moment.
Okay, then we'll have to wrap up.
Okay.
Thank you.
There was a report that I saw just this morning where the Department of Energy has decided to spend $28 million upfront, $28.8 million upfront, to do a study to see how fracking can be done responsibly. And they're going to spend another $36 million over the next 2 years on this. Industry has put up $8.6 million for this study. Why are we spending $500 million to find out how you frack responsibly and allowing it to move forward simultaneously and to allow it to continue? I would just ask you that. Getting some local control would be really important because they're not doing this responsibly. And I can tell you from experience, the regulatory process, there are no siting requirements. One of the communities that I worked up in Portage County, if there was any injection well that was going to be denied, it would have been the one up in Portage County. They wanted to put 7 injection wells on one piece of property. There were 2 fracking wells immediately outside the area of review, where the laterals would run under these 7 injection wells, where cement and steel are the only thing protecting the aquifer from getting contaminated if the wells breach. And everybody on the perimeter was on a private drinking water well. Everybody. The man owned a bunker, and he was training people, and had been for some time, to use heavy artillery. At the same time that he was accepting $170,000 to keep this land in a wetlands trust, in a wetlands conservation agreement. They couldn't even get a hearing. They couldn't even get a hearing. So if you think that you're going to be able to have a voice in the regulatory process as far as where it gets cited, or if the permit gets issued, please think again. I have correspondence from the Department of Natural Resources that told me that of all 4 communities that I worked with, not one of them was issued a public hearing, and they said under no circumstances would they issue a public hearing. Under no circumstances would any community member get a public hearing. I also got an email this morning where there is a report that came out where the United States Geological Survey team has said that these earthquakes that have happened in Colorado and Oklahoma are absolutely related to the fracking and the injection wells. So just think about that. Your drinking water, the integrity of your homes, your children's future and health. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you everything that I get from the records review that I do with the DNR on this existing injection well in your county. And I want you, when you look at that, to ask yourself, do we want more of the same? The laws, nothing's changed in the laws. It's all the same. What you're seeing, what you've got now is what you're going to get more of if you allow this to come in.
Okay. Well, that is exactly what we're doing. Is we are taking a hard look at it, and it is because of our interest in it as it applies really within our jurisdiction, and that's the reason that we set about this review. We want to do it in a logical, thoughtful way. We want to look at everything that is entailed in the issue and any of the possibilities that could occur. And that's the reason that I've structured these meetings to be set up the way they are, to ensure that we are hearing all the things that we need to hear. And it is a particular interest to me, I think, to bring in at the start people just like us, just regular folks, and get some background on how they have responded and how it has impacted on them. And we will hear conflicting information. And I don't want to prejudge. I don't want us to prejudge, as I said in the beginning. I don't want to prejudge that an entire industry is bad or an entire industry is good, or that our state officials are one thing or another. I think we want to continue to look at it with an open mind, as we do with every issue that comes before us, so that we can make a good decision. Number one, we can make a good decision, and along the way, we as a community will have an opportunity to learn all there is entailed in this process, in this issue. And I think it will be a good experience and a good process.
Mr. Ladd, I'm Joanne Swarby, and I'm from the village of Lodi, and we have the first well in Harrisville Township. Could I speak about what it's like to have one?
I will invite you to come. I will talk to you about coming to another meeting, but I want to stay on track here. This is not a public hearing. I will be glad to talk to you and share that information at some time. But this is really for dissemination at the moment by this committee, by the administration, the mayor, and any city council members that want to add anything to it. That's their purview. But I appreciate your question. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am? Okay. Mayor, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I'd just like to thank you and the committee. I think this is a great opportunity to gather the necessary information. This is a start, I think, of a pretty substantial process. The administration stands ready to gather the information with you, review it, make a decision that's in the best interest of the community at large.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Hilberg? Councilman Rose?
Yes, I make it here.
Sir, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, ladies, for coming. It's obvious that you've done a lot of research on how the fracking impacts you and how the industry is, I should say the state is not following some of the rules and regulations that they have imposed on the fracking companies. And I know it's a very personal and passionate item for you, and in your case, it sounds like it's probably your life's work. I have family members who live on a 55-acre farm in eastern Pennsylvania. Fracking has come into their area there. They have, the only problem that they have are the roads and the truck drivers on the roads. Everything else is pristine in their areas. They've not had any problems at all in the area called Lyman Township, I forget how it's pronounced, but everybody has done well. My sister's family and their extended family were having some rough times. They're doing very well now. So that is the other side. For me personally, I'm sorry? Well, that's the federal government. That's a federal government issue.
No, it's not a state issue.
It's interstate commerce. It's a federal government issue. Okay. And for me personally, I grew up in the steel industry.
He's not
Highly
researched.
regulated by the EPA. We had reports that we had to do weekly, daily, and turn it in. Where's the steel industry now? Okay. And so, in part of education, and that's what this was, and I did learn a lot this evening, and I do thank you for that. I've invited Mike Chadsey from the Energy in-Depth Ohio to give some facts on what we have here in Medina, and here in Medina only. We're not going to go anyplace else, on just what the potential for drilling is in the state of Ohio, or in Medina County with regard to fracking. Okay.
Thank you, Councilman.
Mr. Lamb, I'm very sorry. I thought this was an informational meeting, and I do not think it's correct for him to be able to speak and not Mrs. Sorby or other people.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Here, 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 here. Here, here.
he should not speak.
I've asked him
Oil
to
and gas
speak
speak.
in my half.
Let me
because he
address
has
that.
the- he has
That's not
the
right.
That doesn't make
education.
any difference. There's other people that want to speak, you can't.
Let me address that.
Thank you, sir.
The way that I set these meetings up is so that city council can gain information. The reason that I have extended it out over a period of time is so that we will have the time to do it in a logical and thoughtful and meaningful way. That will allow us to deal with all the aspects of this issue so that we can come to a conclusion, including, as I said in the beginning, whether in fact the geology here is meaningful at all to the drilling industry. That's how this is set up. I know that there were some news reports that were informative, but some parts of them were incorrect. This is not a public hearing. On the other hand, city council members, as a courtesy to city council members, they have a more than a right to participate in whatever way they choose to do. And if Councilman Shields had something he wanted to bring up, and maybe he wanted assistant prosecutor to talk, or he wanted somebody from industry or the chamber, that's a courtesy to people on council. I can assure you this: there are the meetings that will be upcoming through the new year will include questions, public participation, an opportunity after state officials have spoken to ask questions of some of the people some of the departments that you mentioned tonight. I intend to make this a meaningful dialogue, but council people have a right to participate in this, and you know, I got to tell you, in the very beginning, I got some notice from folks that were questioning the way I'd set it up. And my first response to that was, I haven't had the meeting yet, and who could ever object to a conversation? And in further talking, I realized they don't object to the conversation. They just were concerned about some of the issues. And they have a right to be concerned about those issues. And Councilman Rose has that right if he wants to bring someone up to speak. But what I'm saying is that the lady from Lodi will have an opportunity to talk, and we will have a thorough airing of this, but I want to keep it within this form that I've set up, and I think that will be the most meaningful thing for us to do. As the mayor said, the administration is going to help us look into this information so that we can bring this to a good conclusion. We don't want this to end up being a ballot. We don't want our residents to come back in a few years and say we didn't look at it. It had to be, we had to put it on the ballot because our city council or our administration wouldn't listen to us. We don't want that to happen with any issue. We want to address it up front and be proactive. That's what we're trying to do, but we want to do it in the correct way. I was talking to a reporter from Cleveland the other day, and she said, you know, I don't know of any other community that has addressed it in the way this community has decided to do it. We cannot, we will not be eliminating your voice from the conversation, I assure you that. But Councilman Rose tonight does have the floor and the opportunity to bring someone to speak if he chooses to do that. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.